smart as he usually is.
Brown drives, layup off the glass.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Scoring net, knocked away. Ball game.
Wayne Spooney here, and welcome to Al Horford, the podcast. First to the Floor podcast. We'll get into that in a little bit. I'm here with Jake Eisenberg. Jakey, how's it going, man?
Mate, doing well, doing better now that I'm here with you in a safe place in the midst of a multi-day induced, we'll call it a flu game, but self-inflicted flu game.
Yeah, if you are completely unfamiliar with how the northern and southern hemisphere work, we are in winter in the northern hemisphere. They are in summer, so it's wedding season. Jake fought the good fight at a wedding for the weekend.
It was a sick wedding, sister-in-law on a island. We brought all the camping gear over. It was awesome. But look, man, unlike Al Horford, we're actually feeling our age.
Yes, the legend.
Yes.
So before we jump into this Sixers game, we have a very brief announcement. I don't know if it's right to call it an announcement, but we are having Drew Carter on Tuesday night. We're very excited about it. We cannot wait. So I just want to let everybody know, check out when we have Drew Carter on live on Tuesday night. My time, that would be Wednesday for the Australian folks, and like and subscribe, help us with the algorithm, let Drew know we are legitimate and not just a bunch of clowns doing a podcast randomly on YouTube.
We should hopefully be coming off the back of a huge in-season tournament win, chock full of Drew Carter, just legendary calls, which would be a great way to kick this puppy off. So we'll see.
Yeah, and assuming he doesn't listen to this podcast, which I doubt he does, but if he does, hey, what's up, Drew? Thanks for listening. We're going to try and incept a few nicknames into his brain, so if you hear them on the call after we have him on, that's all us. We want all the credit, please. So,
absolutely.
Anyway, that exciting news aside, the Boston Celtics won technically 125-119 against the Philadelphia 76ers. So, Jake, I feel like there's two ways you could look at this game. One way is, wow, what an absolutely disgustingly pathetic effort, and they deserve to lose that game. The other way is, wow, they played really bad, and they still found a way to win. So where are you leaning on that?
Yeah, this is... I always prefer to watch the games without knowing the score, but in this scenario, I knew that the Celtics had won, but I knew that it was close. I knew there was a 6-point lead. I saw that Pat Beverly went off. And so I had it's always so different when you have this information. But when I was watching it, I watched the first three quarters from the hours of 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. And I could only imagine the stress and fury that was being induced onto Celtics fans watching Pat Beverly go off for career highs across the board. But then, I walk away and the things that maybe we were a little concerned about early in the season, like Peyton Pritchard, was Al Horford getting a little bit old? Parts of the team that maybe weren't as solid coming to this season potentially continue to look awesome. And so, Jayson Tatum, whatever the opposite of solid is right now, it's kind of what he's doing. And he was like, you know what? I actually think you guys have a better chance of winning this game if I'm not here. And I'm not sure that he was wrong. Because what did he have? 7 turnovers before he checks out there. And then that gets Pritchard going. He doesn't turn the ball over. Al Horford, more touches, doesn't turn the ball over. And that's all they needed to do to win this game, which was frustrating from Tatum, was like, just play solid in this game and you'll win by double digits easily, even if the Sixers have an outlier shooting game. And, the hospital teams, especially like the well-coached hospital teams, we've seen it from the Celtics. They get up for this stuff, and there is that mental kind of, it feels like an advantage almost to be the team nothing to lose, as opposed to being the Celtics that if they do lose, we're going to just go into a deep, dark depression across the board.
Yeah, I think it was Doc. I think it was Doc a while
Yes,
ago
it is
said
Doc.
like the worst thing I could hear is that the star was out because I knew my guys would take the night off.
Yeah, exactly.
And like at least for the first half, that is exactly what happened in this game. Like the defense was pathetic in that first half, man. Like it made me viscerally mad because all you have to do is stay solid against that version of Philly and they're not going to be able to score on you. Like just don't miscommunicate and just be there, and like Pat Bev's not going to hit a bunch of step backs. He kind of did a little bit, but like we also just let him get open.
Yeah.
Let Melton get open. We let Marcus Morris go
Yeah.
2 or 3 from 3 for 13 points, and he's been like unplayable this year. And we just did not look up for it on the defensive end. I will say, second half, especially the like first 6 minutes of that third quarter, we looked like a much better team. I thought the defense was looking really good. Switches were on point. They had a lot more intensity, really, for the entire second half. I think what kind of scared me, though, was should we be worried that crunch time offense looked pretty clean without Tatum out there? Like they were moving the ball a little bit more. They were like driving and dishing, and it looked like an actual offense.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been good in the clutch this year, so
Sure.
I don't know, but that question kind of has to be asked, right?
Well, man, when Al Horford and Derek White are involved, the decisions are just faster and more correct from those two guys. And I think I still love the crunch time offense being able to go to Tatum in the post because I think that's just an easy way to get things going. But man, the amount of times that Al Horford just sets the right screen at the right angle to get the offense moving in the right direction so that Derek White can, whether it's give it to Horford on the pop or on the roll, or the defense sucks down and D White's able to kick it to the corners or whatever. I mean, I didn't even mention D White yet, but again, like he's the king of giving any given game exactly what it needs. And I mean, for him to do what he did again, first half, 13 points, 3 for 4 from 3, when they really kept them in it. But yeah, the crunch time offense was really solid. But I wonder as well, part of that, like having no Embiid, just getting a little bit more comfortable down the stretch there. I felt like they got serious finally, and Philly didn't have the horses to stick with them. It's just frustrating that this game, it feels like it keeps happening now for the past 9 games, going back to the Memphis one being the first really bad one.
Yeah, and look, the flip side of this is like we were also without Porzingis. Tatum took the game off.
Well, I was like, we didn't have, we had like worse than actually having Tatum. He's gonna play like that.
Yeah.
Actually, though, like if he's gonna play like that, then it is better to not have him.
Yeah, which is insane to say because his entire career, even when he's not been making shots, we've been a much better team. But actually, we have a tweet that I think is Sean Grandy tweet. So in the last 9 games, the Celtics are plus 58 with Tatum off the court and minus 17 with him on, which is like totally unprecedented for his entire career because we've fallen apart his whole career when he's been off the floor and been like the best team in the NBA when he's been on the court. And that like extends into the playoffs. Last year, I think we were like -3 net rating with him off and like +5 with him on. So it's not just kind of like regular season tomfoolery. Like he's just not impacting the game in the way he usually does. And I think the big part of that is like turnovers, man.
It's all
like
turnovers.
Yeah.
Looking at the turnover numbers. So last 9 games, he's averaging 4.2 turnovers per game, which is second in the NBA. Second in the league behind only LaMelo Ball. And look, if you're going to be a high usage guy, you are going to turn the ball over. That's just how it goes. Like when Tatum broke the record for most turnovers in a playoff run, and that's like a thing that people always like to point to if you want to hate on Tatum, where LeBron James was the previous record holder because when you have the ball that much, you're going to turn the ball over. That being said, Tatum, he does have an issue with his handle, especially lately. And when he's not making quick decisions and he's just dancing around at the top of the key and not being serious, it just starts to pop up, and then the defense is going to look worse statistically with the net ratings and all that kind of stuff, because when you're handing the ball to the other team, like I'm making some playback content for the launch of the Celtics blog playback room, which we were plugging here, and you and me are watching the Sixers game, and it's like we're talking about Tatum, just be solid here. And what happens? Jayden Springer just like picks his pocket, goes down the other end, and like watching our faces be just like so because they're so avoidable. We know he can do this. So you go back to last season, the 22-23 season, he averaged 2.9 turnovers per game, 29% usage. Over the last 9 games, he has a 28.6% usage. So usage is the same. The team is arguably better. Like, there are more release valves. I understand that KP hasn't been there. Yeah, Tatum assist usage percentage, 52nd percentile from Eric Weiss in the chat here. It's just not good enough right now. And I understand that people are like, Jaylen's done X, Y, and Z, and as a way for it to not hold Tatum accountable. Tatum just has, in my opinion, should have much higher expectations, be held to a much higher standard. On Jaylen's best season last year, second team All-NBA, thanks to a little bit of like the positional, chicanery, he ended up making All-NBA. But last season, late top 20 player, somewhere in like the 15 to 22 range as a player. Coming to this season, we're like Tatum's top 5. He's at least in that second tier with Luka and KD and all these guys. That's the standard we're holding him to, because unless he's playing like that, then it doesn't really matter what this team does and how good this team is, because they're not going to win a title. If he's playing like the last 9 games, he's been good, like a good player in a vacuum. 28, 8.4 rebounds, 4.2 assists, a full steal, 0.6 blocks, 59.6 true shooting, above league average. But we're watching these games.
Yeah. Congratulations, you're Pascal Siakam.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it looks not like so obviously not good enough, and he's so obviously like. So all right, I'm gonna make an excuse for Tatum here, but he just looks like mentally kind of checked out in some ways, and there's this crazy sickness going around the NBA, and he got it like 3 weeks ago. And I wonder if that's still affecting him or something, because it just doesn't look like he has that extra gear right now, or so. I don't know. But then, so some of these turnovers are just like he's just throwing it to the other team, and it makes no sense. So I don't know.
No. I think, you can't give him the excuse, but at the same time, Tatum is someone I've thought about this before, who's always so healthy. Like, he's so used to being 100%. Body, even when he had that long COVID, I think that was different, but that really affected him. I wonder if he's someone that's just so used to being consistently in the best shape, and no injuries, no illnesses, good immune system. Not something I can relate to across all these fronts. but I like myself right now. I can operate at a level close to my normal peak, because I'm used to my body not working anyway. As opposed to Tatum, when something's a little bit off. Similar to how he turned his ankle in the conference finals in Game 7, there are some people that are able to kind of manage that a little better when I think he's not fully himself. Maybe now we're kind of putting the tin hats on a little bit here, but I mean, it's either something's going on. Avoid the yes, I mean, definitely. That's something I can't know for sure. Jason's definitely absolutely not piss fit. Yeah, I think first to the floor could definitely drink Jayson Tatum under the table. That wouldn't be too difficult.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's either a focus, it either feels like something's going on or he's checked out. And hopefully it's the first one, but he shouldn't be checked out right now.
Yeah, and Ben in the chat, this Ben Vallis guy, I've not heard of him before, but he said flashes in the first half, put his head and shoulders down, got to the cup a few times. That's what's kind of annoying, because it seems like when he's like, all right, I need to play, he does, and it looks good. And so it's in there somewhere. I wonder if this is like intentional, and he's just kind of saving himself a little bit. But I don't know.
He could be intentional and not throw the ball into the knees of Jaden, or like the breadbasket of Jaden Springer. Just throw the ball and stand in the corner, dude. You're being destructive.
Or like there's these passes where I think he thinks he's getting trapped on the pick and roll, and he's not, and he just kind of like throws it to the big, and like the opponent's just like right there. I don't know. It's very frustrating, but
it's just weird. And then like, for people that, this is who Tatum is. Whatever. I see a lot. Obviously, right now on the internet, bad time to be a Tatum fan right now.
Yeah.
But we've seen him deal with this level of defensive attention for multiple years now. Like, this is not a new thing. And also, I mean, KP's been gone for what, like 4 or 5 games. This was happening prior to KP going down. And honestly, the team around Tatum has been playing, ironically, has stepped up. As the Tatum decline has happened, the rest of the team has really, really taken the reins and stepped up for Tatum. And so we know he can do it. Like, we've seen it for years. And so, I don't know. I was hoping it's like tomorrow, because the game technically matters more, that he's just going to not be an idiot.
Yeah, and look, I'm not worried about him really, but it's a frustrating, like when we're making content all the time, podcasting multiple times a week, I want to be able to like declare him a top 5 player, and then he has these stretches and it's like, dude, stop it. This makes our lives so much more difficult. But,
absolutely. Like, we had Alex Hoops come on the podcast, an objective observer, and he was like, look, it's pretty consensus. All the lists, even the people that, don't like Tatum as much as others that aren't like being purposefully clickbaity for engagement, he was a consensus top 10 player at worst.
Oh, yeah.
But really it was like in that 5, 6, 7 range for pretty much everyone. So we're not all making that up. So it's just like, it's there somewhere. And I guess macro, if our biggest problem right now is Jayson Tatum not playing like we're pretty confident that he's going to play like, that could be a good thing.
Yeah, right? Because then it just means this team has another level to get to when Jayson Tatum's like truly clicking. So, I mean, he'll be fine. I think you're right, Jake. I think Monday, and plus Indy is like the second worst defense in the NBA too.
Correct.
So it'll be a good way for him to get back in the groove a little bit. And look, he got a nice short minutes load on Friday, 2 days off, so he should be good to go. But let's get to some fun stuff.
Yes,
let's get to the good stuff. Al friggin' Horford. And before we go on, please, he did this back-to-back possessions, a double block, and then a pump go kick to Drew Holiday as a center. Let's just roll it.
Exploit that. Hauser with the back cut, but knocked away by Covington.
It was his turnover.
Melton lobs it ahead to Harris. Gets the deep catch.
It's so ridiculous.
Horford and another block. Horford at age 37. Shot clock down to 6. Horford penetrates. Throws to the corner. And the three goes for Holiday. Celtics.
Like,
unreal.
Centers don't usually catch in the corner, pump fake, get their guy in the air because he's a good enough shooter that you have to contest him, take a dribble drive into traffic, and kick to the corner shooter. Like, that's just insane.
I'm almost struggling a little bit with Al at the moment. I'm like, have I not been appreciating him enough throughout his time here? Because I feel like this last 9-game stretch is actually some of the best basketball he's played as a Celtic. And I'm trying to figure out if is this recency bias, but like you go, these last 9 games here, like, and it started with that Philly game where Porzingis was out and he has 14 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 5 blocks, and reminds everybody that I'm the Embiid stopper. I'm like, this 9-game stretch is some of the best basketball he's played. Like, in the 9-game stretch, it's, what is it? I got it right here. 11, 7, 3.5 assists, 0.5 steals, 1.6 blocks, and the 3-point percentage is up to 45%, which is an outlier, but is it actually an outlier because he shot 44% from 3 last year?
Right.
It's just... Joe, we got Joe in the chat here. He's like, this is not this is not a Twitch live stream where I'm going to get in the hot tub if you donate coins. But actually, if you donate enough coins, maybe it will be. But Al Horford, this stretch, especially when we're coinciding with Porzingis going down, like the defense to me is the most impressive. But when you're adding that to the connect, like he's obviously shooting well from three, but now he's playmaking too, like 3.5 assists a game to the 0.7 turnovers, I think it is. It's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I think we've been talking a lot, like the theme of kind of what this team does great is their versatility. And it kind of starts with Al being able to do so many different things. Like he was the blueprint. He's why we got Porzingis, because we saw how he worked in this offense. Obviously, he's a different player defensively, but we just needed somebody to replace Al Horford long term. And we got a guy who I think probably can. But Jake, I don't know if it's like, let's go look at that. What is it? 2018 playoffs, that run when it was Tatum, the young Jays and Al, like he dominated during that playoff run. So I don't know if this is the best he's played as a Celtic, but as far as but he is,
no, you are right. But I'm just like, but I think it's just relative to the expectations.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, he's been so good. I think defensively it's right up there. I mean, it really is. And like, we talked about it last podcast. He's kind of a different defensive player, but he's still just as effective. And look, 26, 3, 1, 2 on 9 shots and only one turnover. Like that's a nutty line, man.
Look, and this game matters. Yes.
Yeah.
The Sixers didn't have their guys, but now we have 2 wins and 1 loss against Philly in the season series. 1 more game to play. We own we have the tiebreaker right now. So going into the 4th game, being up 2-1 really matters. And like, he's been huge in a bunch of games here. I mean, it's hard to kind of break these things down because despite us being a little whingy and complaining about some stuff, the Celtics are 15-4. And so now with the contract too, Ben Val's in the chat here, really contributing for the first time to this podcast. Thank you for stopping by. And it's an absurd contract. Like, we're going to rank later on here the top NBA players aged 35 and up. But another thing we could easily do is best value contracts that aren't rookie scale deals on contracts that are under 10 million. Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about Al recently because he's been playing so damn well.
How could you not?
I know, but it just truly, like, the different types of guys he can guard too just unlocks the defense so much. Like, I mean, he's on Embiid, and then he's like dominating Paul Reed. He's like switching on to Trae Young and still doing a decent job. Like Tobias Harris, he basically just ended his career with a double block.
That was a rough game for Tobias Harris, man. Jeez, that's like of all the people to step up, you're kind of hoping that he's one of the guys, and it ends up being Pat Bev. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy. Porzingis was healthy. Our best 5, the starting 5. Assuming we have this version of Al Horford, obviously we're looking a little far out here, but we get KP back. We get Al back on the Fountain of Youth program, get those minutes down a little bit, and we get him ready to go. And honestly, last playoffs defensively, he was excellent. The 3 ball just kind of left him, and that literally could just be a luck thing, as we're kind of seeing with this stretch here. But, the best version of the Celtics over the past 2 to 3 years, January to March 2022, Robert Williams, Al Horford, double bigs. Is Jrue Holiday pretty obviously the 6th best player on this team if Al Horford's playing like this?
I knew where you were going the second you started listing off like Porzingis, Al Horford. I don't know. I think is where I come out. Like I just truly do not know what the best 6 for this team is. And I think ultimately it is between Al and Jrue because Derek White is just so perfect next to the Jays. He so just perfect. Doesn't need the period. I should just so is Al Horford. Like yeah. And see you guys later. No. He's just such a good fit next to 2 high usage stars and he's so good defensively. Like he's got to play KP's obviously got to play. And then it's like between Drew and Al, I think I have a cop-out answer, which is like, I think you just play the matchups.
Sure.
But like, it makes me feel insane to be like, we're not going to have Drew Holiday, like one of the best guard defenders in the league who can make open threes and can run point guard for you. Like, he's not going to play. And then you see like Al Horford hitting big threes in the fourth quarter and just like everywhere defensively. And he's been rebounding really well this year, which has always been kind of like the one weakness in his game was his defensive rebounding. And this is like, he's been
absurd.
Yeah, he's been like better at it than ever this year. Like, no big deal.
Well,
So,
and something as well when you're comparing Drew and Al. I think the cop-out answer is the correct answer, depending on who you're playing, and you're playing the matchup game a little bit. But on a team that definitely struggles with decision making, and especially decision making in the clutch, and who just kind of also struggles with that is Drew Holiday, and who doesn't is Al Horford. And so if you've got Al, Derek, and honestly, Porzingis has been great with his decision making in the clutch as well. Yeah, I hope you're right, Eric, because I think Drew Holiday has said all the right things, but there is definitely, I don't know. I think we might get to the playoffs and Al is going to be doing his Al Horford thing, and it's just going to be obvious that he should be out there. And if Porzingis is healthy, I know, long way to go, but I'm just bathing in Al Horford juice.
Yeah, well, and if you look at the teams we're probably going to match up against, the Bucks, the Sixers, Cleveland, New York, those teams are all enormous, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the double bigs makes a lot of sense against every single one of those teams. So I would not be shocked if we see Al closing a lot of playoff games over Drew Holiday.
Yeah. Ironically, Miami's the one that he doesn't, like, for double big wise, doesn't work quite as well. But having him in that backup rolling in that matchup is obviously a luxury. But yeah.
Anyway, so one thing Joe did, and recently, self-plug here, I wrote on 3-Leaf Clover about how Joe Mazzulla just needs more credit, because I think he's doing a really good job this season so far. And one thing I really liked that he did this game is that he brought Pritchard back in to close the game. And Pritchard was awesome. And good friend of the pod, Eric Weiss, just had an awesome Twitter thread. Go check it out at @EricWeiss_SA, where he just broke down Pritchard's driving game, which I think is something he doesn't really get. Nobody ever talks about it, right? Like, it's just about his shooting and his like point of attack defense, and that's about it. And his energy, I think, was kind of infectious on a night when we absolutely had zero energy. We were super flat. And he just made the right plays. He hit some shots in the last 9 games, 8.6, 41.5 from 3. So, like, dude, Pritchard, like, what more can you ask for from Peyton Pritchard at this point?
Yep, he was huge. He's been huge lately across this stretch. That's what's been weird about this little section of the season here is that all of the look, I got caught up in the moment there. If you're watching if you're listening on the audio podcast, there's some Al Horford juice
Bathe me in it.
situation happening here. That's all my fault. But yeah, Pritchard, man, the guy that we really expected to see coming into the season has kind of turned up, and the long range shooting is obviously really important because he just adds to the spacing of this team. But when he's driving confidently as well, he's not turning the ball over. Man, he's had a lot of those drives, and I haven't gotten to that thread, but I wonder if that play against Charlotte's there where he kind of bodied McGowan's and got to the rim a couple times in that game. And look, are we going to have Pritchard in the playoff rotation to a championship? I think he can play in certain matchups. He just has to be effective. But when you're playing someone like Miami, where they're really, really good at mismatch hunting, and they have someone like Jimmy, who's incredibly good at taking advantage of size mismatches, that's going to be a problem. But interestingly, like the Bucks, he can kind of hang out there. Like, if you're going to play drop coverage and not switch the pick and roll with Dame, and you just have someone else out there that can pick up Dame full court and also make Dame work on the other end. He's someone that you can't hide bad defenders on, at least all the time. And so Yeah, look, but again, he's your 8th guy. People aren't playing 8 guys once you get to the conference finals and finals, especially once you get into games 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The Nuggets played 6.5, 7 guys. Really, it was 6 in the finals last year. That's just what happens every year. TJ McConnell, man. That's exactly TJ.
Yeah, and look, Pritchard's had positive playoff moments. Like, he's proven he can at least play in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and that's all you need from him. I think what I really liked about him, too, is, like, his assists. He's almost averaging 3 assists a game this year, and he's only turning it over less like 0.6 times a game, which is that's like a 5-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So yeah, part of that is because he's not your traditional point guard who's cracking the defense and, you know, getting to the paint and making plays, but like that's what we need from the tertiary guys on this team. Like, do your job, don't turn it over, because our stars are going to turn it over plenty. So we don't want anybody else to. And he's not turning it over. And he's fine. I mean, like, his previous career high was 2 assists a game. It was 1.3 last year. Him to be up over 3, you know, in only 20 minutes a game, like, that's good. And his shooting he's only 33.3% from 3 this year, but he was at like 12% a month ago. You know what I mean? So I think he's been fine the last like 10 games or so from 3. So I've just been really impressed with him. And yeah, Eric had the Bryce McGowan's where he shouldered Bryce into the 3rd row of Charlotte Stadium, laid it in. And also the one on Biyombo where he just kind of like rose up into Biyombo, knocked him off, finished. So I think he's finally flashed some of the things we were excited about in preseason with him, where it's like just not a massive expansion to his game, but just kind of a few extra skills that we need. And yeah, I think you're spot on, Jake. Like, you really can't hide people. Like, I don't think you can hide Dame on him. Like, I think he can go at Dame.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, especially when you add the spacing element to it as well, and the way that Pritchard pushes the pace. Man, like, I'm looking at the turnover numbers for the team here, and we're currently 17th in the league, 13.9 turnovers per game. And if we just shave that down by 1 and go 12.9, that would make us tied with the New York Knicks at 5th in the league. And this is how razor thin the margins are in the NBA. And all that is Tatum turning the ball over 1 less per game and averaging 2.9 turnovers like he did last season. That's literally it. And my point is, the way that Pritchard and Horford are both playmaking and taking care of the ball is really, really valuable, and should be the piece that's kind of taking us from the type of team that we were last year, like very solid, not better than very solid, 57 win team, best net rating in the league. But the way that Pritchard's playing right now and Horford's playing right now, and the steps we're seeing from some of the other guys, it should lead to, you know, better overall offense, because that's the bigger issue right now. And having someone like Pritchard having this ridiculous assist to turnover ratio, while obviously providing the spacing and the offensive rebounding, that was the thing earlier in the season. And I give him a lot of credit, because, man, when you've gotten these trade requests out and everyone's like, really, we're about to maybe win a title, go on a deep run, and the 10th guy is having a cry about how he's not getting minutes. It's like, can you please be quiet? And you come into the season finally getting minutes and you can't hit a shot for like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
But he kept defending his ass off. He kept offensive rebounding, doing all the little things. And now the shot's falling and the confidence is coming back. And we're like, yes, this is the guy.
Yeah, you want to see trade requests gone bad. Look at Furkan Korkmaz. he looked so bad last night.
That was your chance, Korkmaz. Come on.
I know, buddy. You got to light it up. Real quick, just jumping around a little bit, and then we'll get into our ad read, and then get into some trade talk, which I think it's about time, Jake. Jaylen had a tough shooting night, but I really, really like how Jaylen Brown is playing recently. And I thought this game was another extension of it. I thought he just made great decisions, especially down the stretch where he's moving the ball. He wasn't forcing anything. And like, even the shots he missed, I didn't think there was any real bad. There's like one mid-range that I was like, ooh, probably shouldn't have taken that one. But for the most part, I think Jaylen's really starting to settle in. The irony is that now Tatum seems like he's not settled in,
Nice.
But I just really enjoyed how Jaylen's been playing, and Friday night rather was no exception.
I think in a game where Tatum gets ejected, game 7 against Miami, you could see Jaylen kind of try and do too much. And in the fourth quarter, he took one shot. It was the pull-up mid-range, just like something that I honestly wish he would get to a bit more. It's just coming off a screen when they're playing drop and pull up from, anywhere from the 13 to 17-foot range when the three-point shot's not going. Knocked it down. He got to the line. So 2 from 2 from the line. 0 turnovers, 1 field goal attempt in a game where there is no Jayson Tatum is like, that shows growth to me. So when you're talking about decision making, and yes, defensively, I honestly think this is easily one of his best defensive seasons that he's had.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think we've talked about it a few times recently, Jake. Like, he's been awesome on that end. Can you remember the last time he got backdoor cut?
No. Which is...
Yeah, right.
Okay.
It was like 1 a game last year, maybe 2.
Dude, it's like Freaky Friday. I mean, we're talking about like Tatum's getting backdoor cut. Like, what is going on? I don't understand.
I know, it makes absolutely no sense. But shout out to JB. I mean, I know that he's kind of the second son in Boston where unless he goes absolutely bananas, JT tends to get the praise. But
plus the contract and all that shit.
Yeah. He's dealt with a lot of stuff this year, but I think he's finally just like really settling in, and that is excellent. So before we jump into some trade talk, quick message from our sponsor.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Yeah,
I got anything, Jake? All right, beautiful.
So, I mean, look, tomorrow it's the IST. Obviously, the Celtics are playing. I would be staying away from the Celtics game just because the lines, Celtics favored by 5. I have no idea what's going to happen in that game. It could just be all over the place. The way that Indiana plays, the Celtics could be up 12 with 2 minutes to go and win the game by 3, and you lose your bet, and that's just the Celtics anyway. What I like tomorrow, New York Knicks +5 against the Bucks. The Bucks are playing everyone close right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. They lost to the Bulls in overtime recently. They were down 26 to the Blazers. They came back.
Atlanta was a close game.
Yeah, they came back against Atlanta. So that's where I would go tomorrow is +5 New York against the... Oh, is that tomorrow? Yeah, I think it is tomorrow. And actually, no, it's the next day. Whatever. New York Knicks +5.
Absolutely love that bet. Yeah. I've seen. I just don't think. I'm just not convinced the Bucks are very good, and I think New York is just flat out playing better than them right now. So, and they're getting points. Like, that's a great bet. Gamble responsibly, of course. But Jake, you got some trades for us, man. I love it. Let's go. What do we got here? I think I know at least one of them.
All right. So off the back of Hoops Hype doing some research for everybody, there were 2 players that trumped out to me. They did like pretty much every team who's available-ish. Teams are calling about certain guys. We'll start with the appetizer here, assuming I actually click the right trade. So we'll see which one comes up because I can't really see. But the big prize will come next. But this is just like, so you want a little extra depth. We haven't loved what we've seen from O'Shea or Lamar potentially. John Conchar, not sexy, but he makes $2.4 million this year, so you don't really have to give up much. This second round pick from the Spurs is like top 54 protected, so it's really going to be 55 and out anyway. I like Conchar. He's like just legitimate wing depth. He's like a 35-36% 3-point shooter, so he can actually shoot it a little bit, and just kind of be a wing that I think is a little more reliable than O'Shea just coming in and giving you energy. And then he has a 3-year extension that's like $6.2 million per year. And I understand all the second apron stuff and not being able to aggregate salaries potentially, but assuming we're able to circumnavigate that because Mike Zarian's a wizard, And all of a sudden you've got Conchar, because part of the issues with making trades this year is that it's like you got to stack a bunch of stuff together because I don't have any tradable contracts, but you bring in Conchar by sending out Brissett, and then his 6 point something kicks in next year, which you can add to Pritchard's 7.5 million annual salary, and all of a sudden you're at 14 million, and then you're like, oh, we have a little more flexibility potentially to bring in an impact player than we did before. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't love Conchar. I think he's kind of like Svi in that he's a shooter that can't always shoot the ball. Like he's at 29% this year, 34% last year, which is fine. It's decent. I don't hate it. I think it's absolutely an upgrade from Oshai.
I was going to say
he does one thing good, and that's hustle. And Conchar has legitimate skills. I think Conchar like knows how to play the game, play within a system, play within himself. He's got decent size. And like if the shooting, I think his shooting is real. He just doesn't play enough to kind of level it out with the sample size. So he doesn't turn it over. He doesn't really make a ton of mistakes. So I think it's an absolute upgrade from Oshai. And like if fingers crossed, knock on wood, there's injuries, I'd be much more comfortable with him filling in as kind of the backup wing behind Hauser than I am Brissett at this point, because Brissett's really showed, again, hustle and nothing else. What's he made, like 1-3 this season, I think, maybe 2. So yeah, this is like no risk, decent reward on a cost-controlled contract for at least another year, which we absolutely need. And so I don't see why we wouldn't do something like this to just upgrade at the expense of a second-round pick or maybe 2.
Well, there you go. Eric Weiss, incredible rebounder, almost 10 per 36 as a 6'5 wing. I do think he's absolutely just like an upgrade in that spot. Memphis, up until this season, has been like perennially a top 3 seed. And Conchar played 72 games last season, 72 the year before that, averaging about 18.5 minutes across both of those seasons. So like he had a season where he shot 41%, 1.8 attempts, not a lot, but definitely a better shooter than O'Shea. Solid defender, and I think has proven that he can play real minutes, 15, 20 minutes a game on a team that was actually a 2 seed. So, but again, that's not like changing the game, but that's a margin move where I think that, could be helpful.
It improves the roster, right? And like for essentially no cost. There's just absolutely no reason not to go do a trade like that.
All right, this is the big one, which I know I think, and everybody we've all been talking about it. Alex Caruso is essentially Derek White light, but so here's the trade. Then we can get this off the screen. But for people at home, Alex Caruso for Peyton Pritchard. And in this situation, I believe he's poison pilled, so the contract would count for his next year's amount. But it's Pritchard, O'Shea, Svi, Jordan Walsh, I know, and then a 2025 top 3 protected first-round pick. So people are saying that it might take 2 first-round picks to get Caruso. Instead of giving out 2 first-round picks, Jordan Walsh is more or less the equivalent of giving out the first-round pick. I'd be kind of... and that's more like a salary thing. But would you unload that level of assets there?
I would throw more in. If they wanted more seconds, I would throw... Look, Caruso is maybe the best guard defender in the NBA. If not, he's easily top 5. And he's taken 5.6 threes per 36 minutes. He's shooting 47.7% on threes this year, which is like the knock on him, like for his entire career, is he's not like a complete negative on offense, but he's like a 0 basically. Like he does just enough to get himself on the floor so you can take advantage of his defense. But this year he's like legitimately making shots. And he's, again, really smart offensive player, doesn't try to do too much. And defensively, he's just friggin' insane. Like he is absolutely nuts good, like on the level of Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday, Derek White. and then we'd have 3 of those guys. We'd have like 3 of the 5 best guard defenders in the NBA. And I think what I really like about Caruso too is he's 6'5". Like he's legitimately can guard up, and he's very switchable. You know, he's not one of these smaller guards who's only good on guards. Like he can take wings. He can bang, like not bang down low every possession, but like if there's 5 seconds left in the shot clock and he finds himself on his big, he's not going to get dusted for an easy bucket. And he's just so good defensively. So I think I perceive him as like kind of the missing piece in a lot of ways. Like I would go all in for him, like within reason, all in.
Obviously, yeah. You don't want to get too crazy, but I also think in the context of Philly and Miami going after Caruso as well. Like if Caruso is going to go to Miami, you got to load the boat, and you just can't let that happen. He's perfect. Back to like kind of what I was saying earlier and how valuable Pritchard and Horford are with their assist to turnovers. Guys that more so Derek and Horford in this scenario, just because Caruso's probably going to play a bit more, but guys that just make the right play down the stretch in big games over and over again is really important for a team with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And he literally has proved that he can be a role player on a championship team. With the Lakers. He was 5th or 6th on that team in minutes in that playoff run. Something I did notice doing the research on what the Celtics have still. One of the seconds that Brad accumulated on draft night that we were on streaming for what felt like 4 days as Brad traded back over and over again is we have the Chicago Bulls 2nd round pick, which I didn't realize, which as of right now would be like the 34th pick, similar to what we had last year, so that's kind of like a first as well. So all of a sudden it's Walsh, a first. If you need to throw in one more, that's kind of like another first as well, on top of you own a bunch of your own firsts as well. I would do it today, but who knows, man? With the Bulls, they just might end up keeping him. We'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah, they're an absolute mystery. Like I have absolute, like they should have blown it up last year. My mind was blown that they just kept it together. I guess they were thinking maybe Pat Williams turns into like a star out of absolutely nowhere, and it kind of changes their trajectory as a team. But like once Lonzo went down, this whole team like completely fell apart, which is it was a shame. And
it is
Lonzo
a shame.
is is a fun player to watch, but like you're just grasping onto a version of your team that no longer exists. So you need to do something. I think maybe the big problem is they can't find anybody who will give them real assets for LaVine, and like
that's the biggest problem. Because if you can't move that, then like what you just tank around to LaVine, because clearly you can. Man, he is having a disastrous season, and like coming into this year, like I thought his defense was better, but he is completely checked out this year, and from all the reports and stuff, there's essentially zero interest for him. So we will see. It's tough because like they can just tank without giving up Caruso. It's like he's got another year left, but I don't know, if you almost have to get something for him. I don't know. I would move him.
Yeah, Jake, I think we were on the little playback for Celtics blog, the test run, and I think you said Caruso is going to get the most assets out of any of the Bulls guys. And yeah, I think it's pretty clear because Vooch I think is negative value. Yeah. DeRozan, I think DeRozan's expiring, so maybe you can get something okay from somebody, especially with like a wink, I'll re-sign for $10 million a year and be your 6th man. But like LaVine's obviously locked up for huge money, and he should be embarrassed about how he played against the Celtics. Like that was pathetic, dude. Like you want to get traded, play well so people want you. Like what are you doing, dude?
Against a team that everyone's watching on the big in-season tournament night. Yeah, man, I'm looking at his numbers now. Yeah, it's just like 21 a game, 33% from 3 this year, getting to the line a whole less time per game. He's just, and I honestly think that someone could get a steal with LaVine if you can get him to buy in. I think to a more winning culture, like the Warriors. They need someone bigger than LaVine, but you know the Lakers, would they do it I think if someone gets him, especially if it's not going to cost you anything, I think there's a world where Levine can thrive. Like, it wouldn't shock me. But, yeah, they kind of completely screws up how Chicago's going to maneuver the rest of their assets.
Yeah, but I think the bottom line is that, like, everybody on Chicago is available for a price right now. So, like, Caruso is in some capacity available. And I think there's the improvement he would make to the Celtics. And, yeah, you touched on it. And the fact that you're keeping him away from the Heat and the Sixers. And it's just... he would be so annoying on the Heat. I would immediately hate him. He would be so freaking annoying.
I wonder what Pritchard's value is. I'm really intrigued. Because I really don't know. To me, he feels more like salary than anything else. But I also think it's teams around the league would view him as a rotation player on just like your average team. And I think, that there's a reason Brad gave him that contract. He always seems to be popping up with Team USA stuff. So, but no, I think the teams just love draft picks now. And that's really what they want, more so than Pritchard. Even though a 30th overall pick, you're probably hoping turns into Peyton Pritchard anyway.
Yeah, that'd be a home run. Plus, he's locked up on a super reasonable contract now. Like, I think I'm not sure if he's quite first round pick value, but he's definitely positive value on that contract. Maybe like probably the same value as like a couple good seconds, something like that, which is a real legitimate value. So like, I think that'd be a pretty good haul, what you laid out for Caruso.
Absolutely.
And like a lot of these contenders don't have a ton of assets, and a bad team doesn't want Caruso. He's too old. He doesn't make sense for a team that's trying to tank because he's too good. So there's going to be a very small market for him. And we have that treasure trove of second round picks that we can just keep adding on if the price gets high enough. So I don't know what it would take for me to say no, but I would be willing to give up a substantial amount, especially I'll throw the seconds in. Who cares?
I guess so. Brad can just go get more the following year, I guess. Yeah. I think 2 firsts and then another second or 2, as long as it's not the Chicago one, I would do. If it's 2 firsts plus the Chicago second, Pritchard, Walsh, that's get. I know Brad is willing to pay real prices. Like, you look at what he gave up for Drew. I mean, kind of in hindsight, it's actually not as good considering Robert Williams may never be the same again. Brogdon has actually been pretty good when he's been playing this year. But then that Warriors draft pick, man, right now, who knows? I could fall into the lottery.
Do you think Caruso has more value than Derek White did when we traded for him? Because I think White has more value than that now, but you think Caruso's got more value on the market?
Well, I think people seeing how good Derek White has been for the Celtics, and people kind of being like, Caruso's basically Derek White light. I think, I think absolutely he would go for more, right? So Derek White went for 1 pick and 1 swap. So, but I think that's fair though. I think that's probably fair. A really good comparison for how much draft assets he goes for.
Yeah. So anyway, I hope we do it, because he would be sick on this team, dude. He really would be. But all right, before we get out of here, we got asked on Twitter, if I can find the screenshot, by Ryan Huber. He said, "At First to the Floor, this will be fun. Please rank the top 10 best NBA players over 35 years old, and a nice polite thanks." So Jake, you, as my Everton FC's manager would say, ran the hard yards. You did all the work. So bring me in. Where are we at? 35?
So it depends on which way we're looking at this. Are we looking at over 35, meaning we're not including 35, it's just 36, 37, 38? That makes this a lot easier, because there are 10 players in the NBA that are aged 36 to 38. Whereas if we add the age 35, there are 15 players in the age 35 bracket. We'll do quickly the 36, 37, 38-year-olds. It gets kind of easier. But 38 years old, you got CP3, LeBron, PJ Tucker. 37 years old, our boy Al, Kyle Lowry, Garrett Temple, Jeff Green, Wes Matthews, and then 36, Ingles, Danny Green, Mike Conley. Now, in this group, I think it's pretty clearly Horford at number 2. I think LeBron, I don't... Again, it would be a bigger story about how good Al is at 37 if LeBron wasn't doing this at 38. Like, he's legitimately a top 10 player in the NBA still. And then CP3's injured again. PJ Tucker is cooked. Absolutely. Yep. The fact that the Clippers took that contract off the Sixers' hands, as well as taking on James Harden by choice, we know how I feel about the Los Angeles Clippers. But then, like, Lowry's been good this year. So I can see someone trying to make that argument, but Horford's, defensively been on another planet relative to Lowry. Temple's washed. Jeff Green's been solid for the Rockets. Ingles been okay. Danny Green's barely playing, and Mike Conley's been excellent. But they're 36. So in the 36-38 bracket, I think it's LeBron, Horford, Lowry. Those are kind of your top 3.
Yeah, maybe Conley 4th.
Yeah,
Conley and then maybe you can make an argument for Conley over Lowry, but Lowry's he's shooting. Yeah, he's shooting the shit out of the ball this year. Lowry is, and you know what? He does all that annoying defensive stuff, takes charges, all that crap. So, and then it's just like a mismatch of like role players. Maybe Jeff Green or Wes Matthews the best, or CP3 rather is probably up the top of that. But I think that's pretty clearly Al number 2 there. So I don't think there's much argument to that one.
Yeah, that's easy. And then so age 35 is where it gets a bit more complicated. You've got KD and Stephen Curry are pretty good players. And then it's like the Lopez twins, Kevin Love, Gallo, Boban, DeAndre Jordan, D Rose, our boy Ish Smith, JaVale McGee, Pat Bev, my guy Patty Mills, Westbrook, Thad Young, who I did consider throwing in the trade machine, but he actually makes a bit more than you'd think.
Yeah.
But after doing that, it's Steph, LeBron, KD in a tier of their own. It's pretty clearly Horford to me after that, though.
Can you make the Brook Lopez argument?
That would be the one.
They have very similar impact in that, like, offensively, they're more limited than they were when they're younger, but they're both elite 3-point shooters. I think Al's much more mobile, and just like his ability to actually like roll hard and like dribble drive and pump and go. Like that clip we looked at earlier, I think probably clears Brook. Brook's a better rim protector defensively, but that's it. I mean, really, he doesn't have anything else on the defensive end. So I think easily take Horford over him, but I could see the argument on Brook.
Yes.
Otherwise, man, it's just like nobody.
Yeah, Lopez, absolutely. I think he someone might say he was a depoy candidate last year, but that has so much to do with the way that the Bucks play defense, which are just always going to funnel all of these attempts towards Lopez and these attempts at the rim where he doesn't have to move, so he's going to have ridiculous contest numbers and stuff. But when you get to the playoffs, give me Al Horford defensively just because of versatility every day of the week. I know Lopez has been kind of on fire lately, though, so I'm just quickly pulling up his shooting numbers here. But what's he? He's averaging 14 a game, 36% from 3. So like he's getting some numbers here, but he also is taking a lot more shots than Al Horford. Like he's more integral because they're like not as deep as the
nobody
Celtics.
Else. Yeah,
they kind of have no choice.
Best player. Yeah. Like exactly. If Al was our third best player, I'm sure he'd be up around 15 a game. And I think you hit on it with the playoff argument, right? Like if I'm like listing who are the 10 best players in the NBA, I'm weighing the playoffs more than the regular season, which is why I think I would put Tatum over Embiid pretty clearly to me. And I think that's where I would land with Horford over Brook is like, you can scheme around Brook Lopez. You can play him off the court. You can't do that to Al Horford on either end. So I'm pretty comfortable. I'm very comfortable, I should say, with Horford over Lopez. But I'm sure that if I was a Bucks fan, I would probably be screaming at the monitor. I'd probably be confused why I'm watching this first, and then I'd be screaming at the monitor that Brook clears Al. But I just don't see it.
Yeah, and look, so 35 and up, man. I mean, there's 25 guys in this group, and Horford firmly in the top 5, and probably at the 4 spot. some Bucks fans may disagree. Then if you get into the age 34 range, then it gets a little trickier as well. But even then, man, it's like Jimmy Butler's 34. Who do you want? James Harden or Al Horford? Let me ask you right now.
If I want to win basketball games, I think I want Al Horford, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's playoff Al, big game Al. Absolutely not a question for me. And then other than that, though, it's like, okay, Bojan Bogdanovic, DeRozan, probably technically DeRozan, but again, like the best version of DeRozan now is going to be a role player. And someone like Al Horford, who is absolutely bought into his role, is incredibly valuable. I'm not sure I'm willing to technically say in a vacuum that Al Horford's better than DeMar DeRozan, because that might be a little crazy. But Eric Gordon, Justin Holiday, Markieff Morris, Nicholas Batum, Horford, man.
Clears
Horford.
easily. Yeah. I think DeRozan's occupying like the Russell Westbrook argument right now, where it's like the best version of him is putting the ball in his hands, and he'll put up big stats, but you won't actually win any games. So like if I'm a championship team adding a bench player, I want Al Horford way before I want DeMar DeRozan. But yeah, in a vacuum, I guess it's DeRozan. But
yeah. And look, TJ Daniel, fair point. Could Al Horford drop 40 against us and lead us to 3-2 lead? But what happened in game 6 and 7? That's what I would counter with. But
and he's been trash this year too.
Yeah.
Like he just was hitting step backs those two games. Like those were such an anomaly too. But I get it. It's James Harden. I understand the argument. But
yeah, but it's James Harden, so it's definitely Al Horford.
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. All right. On that note, Jake, do you have anything else? Anything to plug?
Oh no. Well, so I mean, we're gonna hit Drew Carter coming up after the Pacers game on the next day. But other than that, no, man, we're gonna get the Celtics blog play back up in the next week or two as well. But that's it. And then Jazz off in the chat. We already hit on Conchar, so you might have to rewind us after we finish this. But I think that's it, man. Let's keep it rolling.
Let's do it, man. Let's win this in-season tournament.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But yeah, Jake, Spoonie, we are out. First to the floor. See y'all later.
I love the Celtics!